Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zhafran Wahyudi from class 4A with the last two student ID number is 028, and today I wanna retell you a story about the novel. Today we are diving into the novel with the title of The Judge by Steve Martini, a legal thriller about a corrupt judge, a murdered witness, and a lawyer who has to defend a man he genuinely despises, all while the real killer hides in plain sight inside the prosecutor's own office. Our narrator is Paul Madriani, a defense attorney and a widower raising his young daughter Sarah alone after losing his wife Nikki. Paul's work revolves around his daughter and his law practice, which he shares with his loyal, sharp-tongued partner Harry. Paul's client is Tony Arguello, a young police officer caught in the middle of a nasty labor dispute between the police union and the city hall. The judge overseeing the grand jury investigating the union is Armando Acosta, nicknamed the Coconut, a vain, petty, corrupt judge who Paul has hated for years. Acosta threatened to throw Tony in a jail cell with dangerous inmates unless he testifies against his own union. Paul is desperate to protect his client. Then, almost like a gift from heaven, karma strikes first. That same night, Judge Acosta is arrested in a prostitution sting, caught with an undercover decoy named Brittany Hall, a young police science student working with Vice. Paul cannot hide his delight. His enemy has finally been caught with his pants down, literally. Paul's close friend, Lenore Goya, a deputy prosecutor with a complicated history between them, is assigned to build the case against Acosta. But things get messy fast. Lenore's new boss, the ambitious and controlling district attorney Coleman Klein, humiliates her in the office and seems obsessed with controlling every single detail of the case personally, especially anything involving witness Brittany Hall. Then, disaster. Lenore gets fired without explanation. That same night, in a drunken, emotional spiral, she shows up at Paul's door, and that is when the real story begins. While Lenore is venting, a phone call changes everything. Brittany Hall, the star witness against Judge Acosta, has been found dead. Her body was dumped in a dumpster behind the DA's office, wrapped in a blanket, half undressed. In a moment of reckless curiosity, Lenore drags Paul into Brittany's apartment before the police even secure it properly. What they find is chilling. Signs of a violent struggle, blood on the carpet near a glass coffee table, and on Brittany's kitchen calendar, a scheduled appointment that afternoon with a name written down, Acosta. Days later, Judge Acosta himself walks into Paul's office alongside his wife Lily to hire Paul and Lenore as his defense team. Paul bluntly asks him the one question every lawyer is taught never to ask a client. Did you kill her? Acosta swears he didn't. But before they can even finish the meeting, police storm in and arrest him for murder. The evidence against Acosta looks devastating. His glasses are found at the crime scene, the calendar note with his name on it, and worse, Acosta admits he told a fellow judge that Brittany Hall deserved to die after his prostitution case fell apart. Paul and Lenore are stuck defending a man they both find repulsive, purely because the evidence is stacking up so fast that no one believes he's innocent either. Along the way, they uncover a much bigger web of corruption. Union boss Guslano, missing financial records, a dead police officer named Zach Willie, and a gun with a very suspicious chain of custody. Tony Arguello, Paul's original client, is tangled in all of it, and he starts acting strange, evasive, and increasingly nervous every time Brittany Hall's name comes up. As the murder trial begins in front of the sharp, no-nonsense judge Rutherford, Coleman Klein personally takes over the prosecution instead of handing it to a subordinate, a decision that strikes Paul as strange for a busy district attorney with a re-election campaign to run. Right? Midway through the trial, Paul gets a break. forensic evidence, hair and fabric fibers matching the blanket Brittany's body was wrapped in. Turns out, not in Acosta car, but in the police vehicle assigned to Tony Arguello. Paul puts Tony back on the stand and dismantles him piece by piece. Tony denies, deflects, and stammers until he slips and admits his date with Brittany that night was quote-unquote cancelled, contradicting everything he swore to earlier. The coroner realizes Tony was there. He panicked and moved her body, but he swears he did not kill her. That night, Paul and Acosta pieced together a theory. Someone was in Brittany's bedroom that evening, removing evidence, phone numbers, and anything embarrassing. When they heard a scream from the living room and assumed she was still alive, Tony had grabbed a blanket, tried to get her to help, and only realized in the car that she was already dead. Panic, he dumped her body instead. But one mystery remains. The night Paul and Lenore searched Brittany's apartment, they glimpsed something small and gold glinting on the floor near the coffee table, half buried in spilled potting soil. It was never logged into evidence. It simply just vanished. Paul started connecting details that seemed meaningless before. During an earlier closed-door interview, Brittany's young daughter Kimberly had mentioned, almost as a throwaway line, that she had a quote-unquote treasure that night, and that her stuffed bear keeps all my treasures. Paul later watches Kimberly casually feed a small object into the bear's mouth in court. She realized the missing object, the one everyone overlooked, might be hidden inside that stuffed bear, which is now locked away as court evidence. That night, Paul convinces a reluctant Lenore to sneak into the courthouse using a master key from a judge friend, planning to quietly examine the bear before it gets moved into permanent storage over the weekend recess. They unlock the evidence room and find someone already there in the dark. District Attorney Coleman Klein himself, standing over the slashed-open remains of Kimberly's teddy bear. Scattered at his feet are wisps of stuffing and a small pink button. Paul suddenly understands. Klein is not looking for evidence to prosecute Acosta. He is destroying evidence that would expose himself. Klein grabs Lenore, holding a knife to her throat, revealing his obsession all along. A missing gold cufflink engraved with his own initials, the exact match to two marks scratched into Brittany's coffee table. Klein had been having a secret affair with Brittany Hall. When she pressured him to live his wealthy life and threatened him with a sexual harassment complaint, he snapped and killed her in a moment of rage, then framed the timeline to point straight at Judge Acosta. A brutal struggle breaks out. Paul fights Klein off with a lamb long enough for Lenore to escape, but Klein chases her out to the courthouse and through the city's downtown mall, right towards an ice rink full of teenagers and worse, an oncoming light rail train. In the chaos, Lenore and Klein grapple directly into the tracks. Paul sprints, closes the distance, and slams into Klein at the last possible seconds, ripping Lenore free just as the train barrels through. Coleman Klein, the district attorney, dies instantly, struck by the train while still fighting to reclaim the evidence that would have condemned him. In the chaos and the aftermath, Paul is horrified to realize the cufflink, the one piece of physical evidence proving Klein's guilt, may have been lost in the struggle and swallowed somewhere in the train tracks, because it was so chaotic back then. Then Lenore reveals the final trick. In the middle of the fight, she had swapped her own gold earring into Klein's hand and thrown it onto the track instead, keeping the real cufflink hidden safely in her closed fist the entire time. It was her earring, not the evidence that Klein had been chasing to his death. Wow. With the cufflink, Kimberly's eyewitness identification, and the unraveling timeline, the case against Acosta collapses completely. Judge Radovich declares a mistrial, and the Attorney General formally dismisses all charges. Armando Acosta, the corrupt arrogant judge Paul once despised, walks free, saved by the very lawyer who once wanted nothing to do with him. Guslano, in the other hand, the union boss tangled in corruption from the very start, is also finally arrested too, caught at the airport with drugs planted in his own luggage. I still speechless about that. Why would you carry a bag full of drugs in your literal luggage? Anyway, in the end, Paul and Lenore pack up their kids for a quiet camping trip in the mountain, finally able to breathe after months of murder, corruption, and betrayal, hiding behind respectable titles. And that's all the story of The Judge by Steve Martini, a tale where the real monster wasn't the corrupt judge everyone assumed was guilty, but the polished, respectable prosecutor standing at the podium the entire time. If you enjoyed this retelling, let me know in the comments and tell me if you want more some kind of like this novel review in this channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I don't miss the next one. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.